Tearaway Unfolded, a game that was originally developed for the PlayStation Vita, has now made its way onto the PlayStation 4. Developed by Media Molecule and Tarsier Studios while published by Sony Computer Entertainment, Tearaway Unfolded looks absolutely stunning on the PlayStation 4, just like it did on the PlayStation Vita. The whole world is rendered in beautiful 1080p and runs smoothly at 60 frames per second. The game's art style is what really makes this title awe-inspiring. The whole world is designed to be made out of paper. The lead creator of the game, Rex Kroll, when designing Tearaway, actually had stacks of paper and would design concept art of the game using these stacks of paper. When you look at the environments in the game and take in the rich atmosphere and realize this was actually crafted using paper mache in real life, it really makes you respect and blown away by the world you are in. The level layout is absolutely spectacular. Even though it is in the general sense the same as the Vita version, the levels do feel a lot more open and richer with detail in the PlayStation 4 version. There is a downside, however, to the areas feeling more open, and that is it takes away from the narrative's pace. Some areas just felt huge when it would have probably benefited the narrative better if they kept it more streamlined. For instance, in the lab, there is an area that requires you to take a monorail to get to another area just to open up a present. Then you have to take the monorail back to the previous area just so you can continue with the story. This ruined the flow and the pacing of the narrative this game was creating. When it comes to gameplay, this is where Tearaway on the Vita thrived, and the PlayStation 4 version is no different. Tearaway is the only game on the PlayStation 4 when it comes to gameplay that uses the system and its accessories to the fullest. The controller is not just a method of moving the character throughout the environment, instead you will use the controller in a variety of ways. Those ways being to manipulate the environment, clean up the environment, take out enemies called scraps, design cool paper cutouts on the cutting board, and spaz up your messenger. The best part about it is none of it feels forced upon the player. It all feels natural and also complements the game world aesthetics and has beautiful synergy with the narrative of the game. Throughout the game, your messenger will unlock more ways to dispose of enemies and manipulate the environment. Some games suffer from introducing a lot of tools and mechanics, but those mechanics are only applicable for that certain area. After that, they are practically useless. Tearaway's tools and mechanics are not the case. The game steadily and frequently rewards the player with new interesting tools and fascinating ways to interact with the player and the environment and for taking out enemies. First, the player starts off with the ability to control where the messenger goes with the DualShock 4's light bar. Next thing you know, the messenger is able to pick up and throw enemies. The player can make the character leap into the sky on certain materials by pressing down on the touchpad, or with the slide of the finger on the touchpad, create a gust of wind. In simplest terms, the game gives the players godlike abilities in the palms of their hands and gives the messenger basic necessities of movement, jumping, rolling, throwing, etc. You will need to be able to use all of these if you are going to take out the enemies in this game called the scraps. There are various types of enemies in this game. There are the standard scraps that just charge, spin, and jump at you. There are the ninja scraps that jump on top of each other and then hurl themselves at you, as well as the bouncer scraps that have a bounce pad on top of their head, so you must jump on top of them, then press down on the touchpad to kill them. And then lastly, you have the flying scraps, which just fly towards you, and the only way to stop them is to shine your light at them and lead them into a wall, since all scraps get hypnotized by the light. Which is why the combat is one of the game's weak points. The combat is way too easy. All you have to do is either swipe on the touchpad to change the flow of the wind, throw them into each other, or lead them off a cliff, and you win. The way that developers try to make it harder on the player is by throwing more enemies at the player. This is the only design flaw in this game. It is unoriginal and monotonous, which isn't what the game is at all. When it comes to collectibles, the game has them in the form of confetti, red presents, blue presents, and paper crafts. The confetti is synonymous with rings for Sonic, dots for Pac-Man, coins for Mario, etc. They are there mainly to guide you on the right path. But in this game, they are also used as a form of currency, that way you could buy more customization options for your messenger or purchase more lens for your in-game camera. The second form of collectibles is the red present. These are your standard, oh, you did something difficult, have this, or way to explore all the nooks and crannies collectibles. They are rewarded for performing difficult platforming sections or basically exploring a bit. The second to last form of collectibles is the blue present. These are earned by doing a certain task for a side character, whether it be giving a gopher an apple, bestowing a mustache upon someone's hairless face, or well, pinning the tail on the gopher. All these are little side quests that grant you the ability to open up one of the most amazing blue presents in the world. The last form of collectible is the paper crafts. These are acquired by taking a photo of a character or object that is completely deprived of color. Now remember how I said this whole world was created in real life through the hands of lead creator Rex Kroll? Well, when you take a picture of these characters or objects with no color, they actually give the blueprints, which you can access on the game's Tearaway.me website, to design yourself. It's a physical reward for the player, especially if you are a huge fan of the game. You can litter your room with all the stings that came from the Tearaway world, and that is an excellent use of a collectible. Games nowadays are always asked if they can have the photo mode feature in them. Well, Tearaway does, and not only does it have the mode, but it is the best photo mode to date. You can buy different lenses, filters, you can even purchase a gift maker in the photo mode with the confetti you've earned. It is that awesome. It even comes with a tripod if you want to take a selfie. Not only is the feature there to show off the beautifully crafted world, but it is also implemented into the level design as well. For instance, you can't access one area of the game until you have an ID, which then you turn around and take a selfie of yourself, then voila, there is your ID. It's reasons like this that make Tearaway's gameplay so creative, intuitive, and altogether genuine. The ability to customize your messenger is there as well. You can have him or her look as plain as possible, or if you want to make him or her look as crazy as possible, it's all up to you, the player. The character creation comes with some body parts that are pre-made. However, if you don't like the pre-made parts, you can always go to the cutting board and create your own shapes. How you create your shapes is simple. However, it's very hard to be able to create masterpieces unless your finger is literally a stencil, because the way you create shapes is you use the 6-axis abilities on the DualShock 4 to pick a color from the left side. From there, you can use the touchpad to draw the shape you want on the cutting board. Now if you are done with your creation, you can put it in the envelope. However, if you want to curve out some edges or make a design within the shape, there is a stencil option that will let you erase things with the left analog stick. That way you have more control. I would have preferred if they gave us the choice on whether or not we could use the touchpad or the analog stick. That way if we wanted to, we could control the outcome of the shape more.
But this story does need some villains.
What's wrong with crows? Crows are terrifying.
Some interesting things the game does, however, is makes the player a main character, which in return makes the non-playable characters and even the messenger break the fourth wall in a lot of creative and adorable ways. While the beginning of the story hits the ground running, it begins to trip and fall on itself towards the end. The reason being is one of the plot point's conclusions is absolutely cliche and cheesy. I understand this is a rated E game and is catered more towards kids, but all cliches, if executed properly, can be excellent. This cliche, however, was not executed properly at all. When it comes to functionality and how the game runs perfectly. There are no bugs, no glitches, there are a couple camera issues, but other than that, the game runs perfectly fine and runs like it's supposed to. Absolutely no issues whatsoever.
No.
Overall, this game is incredible, and for the price of $40, it really is a great deal. From the beautifully crafted world to the amazing gameplay, the game really succeeds. However, when it comes to combat and the story, the game can use some work. That's why I'm giving this game an 8.7 out of 10.